Major funding for this program provided by the Moving Image Trust Fund. Additional funding for this program provided by the Arkansas Agriculture Department.
Hello, I'm Tony Brooks, and this is Agri Arkansas. Today, the Arkansas State Forestry Commission, behind the scenes at a lumber mill, and tips for producing great figs. Our guest, Arkansas State Forester Joe Fox and Johnny Garrett at Greenbay Packaging Pinecrest Lumber Division. The mission of the Arkansas Forestry Commission is to protect Arkansas's forests from wildland fire and natural hazards while promoting natural and urban forest health, stewardship, development, and conservation for all generations of Arkansans. Let's take a closer look now at the Arkansas Forestry Commission.
Forests in Arkansas produce $6.3 billion annually, employ over 28,000 people. And Arkansas's forest industry is about fourth largest in the South. Saying that, we're growing more timber than we're harvesting right now, by 40%, both in softwoods, the pines, or hardwoods. The Arkansas Forestry Commission was established in 1931 to protect Arkansas's forests. That's our main mission, to protect, conserve, and develop our state's forests. We're 57%, Arkansas is 57% forested. And of that, about a similar percentage, 56%, is privately owned with small private landowners, mom and pops, if you will. About 13% are industrial forests, about 13% are federal forests, and the rest would be state-owned lands of some sort. So the Forestry Commission, in order to protect and develop and conserve our forests, and that would be rural and urban forests. We have 60 work centers across the state. All of the counties are covered. We have 270 employees, and 195 of those are firefighters of some genre, wildland firefighters.
I'm the protection forester with the Arkansas Forestry Commission, and we are responsible for the wildfires in the state of Arkansas. A big portion of my job is to see that our crews have the equipment that they need to suppress wildfires in Arkansas. Well, we have heavy equipment, dozers and transports that's stationed around the state, and we respond to the fires with those types of equipment. We're more interested in getting the fuels down, getting down to the mineral soil. You know, we don't use a lot of water. We work with our volunteer fire departments to pick up the water resource, and work a lot with our partners. You know, one of our key allies is our volunteer fire departments to help us meet the needs of the fire suppression in the state of Arkansas.
The Arkansas Forestry Commission are the first responders to pretty much any rural disaster. That can be wildfire, it can be tornadoes, it can be ice storms. But our dozers clear the roads for the ambulances to get to people's homes. We have something we call the WUI. Everybody wants to know what the WUI is. That's W-U-I, the Wildland Urban Interface. And it's growing. More and more people are building their homes in the woods, and because of the scenery. But we help them plan how to protect those homes when wildfire comes. That's called FireWise. But we also come when the wildfire comes, either sending our planes and our dozers, or both. But we're the first there at wildfires. And we're the incident commanders. We call them ICs. And we organize when there's a big fire, like the Ola fire, which was 1,000 acres. We organize lots of different partners, the rural fire departments, the U.S. Forest Service, the National Park Service, Game and Fish Commission, industry dozers. We organize them into an incredible firefighting machine, an organization to save lives and work the fire safely ourselves and protect property.
Roger that. 1354 Arkansas Forestry.
I work on the management side of our agency, so there's a lot of behind-the-scenes work that happens, not specifically fire-related, although fire is in the public attention. We do a lot more than that in the Forestry Commission. So I work with program managers that assist landowners in making management prescriptions for their forest. And my role in that is to be the forest health specialist, and if they have an insect or disease issue affecting trees, that's where I come into play and help and consult them through an issue.
Well, foresters in general are don't go to school, to college, to forestry school in order to talk to people, but that's what we do. We are those people who can advise a forest landowner on how to reach their long-term objectives for their forest land, how it can be productive, how it can be gorgeous, and all the while clean the air and the water. So foresters know how forests are built, the structure of the forest, and we know what should grow where. So in the bottomlands is different than the mountaintops, and if you have mountaintop land, we would advise you differently than if you had a creek bottom. So we're the subject experts to help forest landowners develop their property, to grow their property, and to protect their property. We're not a regulatory agency. We have something called best management practices, BMPs, if you will. And one of our jobs, I suppose, part of our mission is to teach landowners and loggers how to protect the soil. And we call it BMPs, it's forestry BMPs. Lots of things like leaving SMZs, stream-side management zones. And those are all voluntary rules. Everything we preach and teach and show and observe is done voluntarily. It's done voluntarily by the forest landowners. We're very proud of our mission. We're 270 men and women who are dedicated to telling the story of Arkansas's forests, to protecting them with modern equipment, whether it be in the air or on the ground with our dozers, to teaching children about forest, to helping landowners, forest landowners of Arkansas, meet their long-term objectives for what they want their forest to do and to look like forever.
Drive long enough on Arkansas highways and you'll eventually end up behind a log truck loaded down with trees heading for a lumber mill. We wanted to keep following that truck and see what happens to the lumber after it leaves the highway. Take a look.
We use over 300,000 tons of logs a year. Those logs put end to end is nearly 3,000 miles of logs. The lumber, it's over 5 million pieces of lumber we use in a year here. You know, the scent of pine is a wonderful thing. So that, yeah, I like the smells and the sounds, and it's a, I guess I've done it for a long time, over 40 years, so it's part of my life. The logs come in on a truck, we unload those logs. We run them through our process. The log is debarked. We cut it into lengths. Optimizers scan the log and look at it from different angles, and then it's sawed based on what the optimization equipment tells us to saw. We sort the lumber according to the dimension and length of it. We stack it for drying. We dry it, and then we run it through the planer mill to put the finishing on it so that it can be used by the public or to whoever we sell it to. And then it's bundled according to the grade, length, product, and we ship it out to treaters for the timbers and decking, and to dimension that goes into homes and building construction. And I tell the people when we hire them, if it's hot, you're going to be hot. If it's wet, you may get wet. If it's cold, you're going to be cold. And if it's cold and wet, you're going to be cold and wet. when you work here, you know the sounds of the saws running and the forklifts and equipment and the sorter running and dropping lumber into bays. There's kind of a rhythm to it, and you know, some of the people, the maintenance people, and some, you know, they know when something's wrong because, and you're hearing there's a noise that's on, you know, and we have to wear all of our safety equipment and hearing protection, but the people that work out there, they can sense, and it, you know, it's not just sensing. There's a different sound that they know is not right, or they're not hearing that continual thump of lumber dropping into bay. So there is a rhythm to it, and they can pick up on subtleties that aren't right. But in the odors, the smells, the smell of pine is it's a wonderful smell to me. If I'm gone for very long and I come back and I come down the interstate, as I come by the interstate, we're less than a mile. I get a whiff of that and I'm thinking, oh yeah, you know, back home. So yeah, we have families that work here. At one time we had 4 brothers that work here, and the last one is retiring in December. So you know, and their last name is Gilmore. So we've had the Gilmore clan, and now we're fixing to be Gilmore less. But we had 4 of them. But we do have our maintenance manager's father retired from this place, and you know, and now he's in his 50s. So you know, we have generations and families, and we've had husbands and wives and so on. So it's a kind of a family, you know, type of atmosphere where everybody knows everybody else, and sometimes we get in your business, but everybody helps. If you need help, everybody helps each other too, and that's part of the family side of it, I think. My great-grandfather, you know, had a sawmill in Indiana, and I have pictures of, you know, his mill. I think the industry, the technology has changed in the optimization equipment, the scanning equipment. The saws, and you know, we have thinner saws and stuff now, but the basic technology of sawmilling hasn't changed. It's been the scanning and the optimization stuff that has changed. My great-grandfather, if he could come back and walk through the mill, he would understand the process. He wouldn't understand the eyes that are doing the scanning, but the rest of it, he would look at it and probably have ideas about how we can make things better. So that technology hasn't changed substantially, and that's intriguing to me that the industry has gone that long with that kind of stuff. And I think we've had a lot of Canadian mills come in, and these are smart people. They know sawmilling, especially in Arkansas. They come in and throughout the South, and that's adding to our knowledge of the industry. I think the industry is healthy. I think it's very cyclical. It's tied to the economy, but people want to live in wood houses, and also it's something that is renewable. It's sustainable. You know, we grow trees and we can keep the process going, and I think it's a very healthy business to be a part of.
Chris Hiryak with Little Rock Urban Farming wants to share with you a great fruit tree you can plant in your garden if you have the space.
Hey guys, Chris here at the Little Rock Urban Farming G Street Farm, and today we're going to be talking about growing figs. Figs are one of my favorite fruits to grow in the South. They love our climate and they grow really well. One of the things that I love about figs is that they ripen in the late summer and early fall. It gives us a nice fruit when there's not a lot of other things on the market. This particular variety is Petite Negra. Now, the name is quite deceiving because this is a large black fig. And the reason that we get a late crop every season is that in the early spring, we cut these plants all the way back, almost to the ground. And the reason that we do that is that most of the fruit on the Petite Negra variety comes on new wood. So these plants can grow up to 12 to 14 feet in just one season. And our plants grow like a bush. You can prune figs to grow in any way that you'd like, but this really works well for us because to harvest, we're able to gently pull the branch down, harvest the fruit, and then release and let it go back up. If you allow your figs to grow without any type of pruning, they can get quite large and might require scaffolding to harvest the fruits later in the season. So this is a really good management practice for us at Little Rock Urban Farming It allows us to produce an abundance of beautiful organic fruit with really little to no management after the initial pruning in the early spring. Petite Negra variety of fig that we grow can grow up to 12 or 14 feet in just one growing season. You'll need about 200 square feet as the plant matures. So if you have this type of space in your garden, go ahead and take a cutting from your neighbor or one of your friends and get it rooted and get it ready to plant out in your garden. You'll be really glad that you did.
Joining us now is Arkansas State Forester Joe Fox and Johnny Garrett of Greenbay Packaging Pinecrest Lumber Division. Joe, let's start with you. I'm sure that there are many people in Arkansas that didn't realize how much Arkansas forestry means to this state's economy.
Well, it's pretty amazing. $6.3 billion worth of production, over 28,000 employees, direct employees. That does not even count the indirect, which is something like 63,000 when you include them. The forestry is huge for the economy of Arkansas, fourth of the southern states in forest production and economy.
When we look at the forestry industry in Arkansas, is it located mainly in the south, or is it all over the state?
Oh, it's all over the state. Some of the eastern counties have more row crops and that sort of thing than forest, but Arkansas is 57% forested, and that's pretty equal north to south. There's more pine and industrial forestry in the south, more hardwood and mom and pop style forestry, if you will, in the north.
You talked about the Forestry Commission being created decades ago, so even back then we saw threats to the Arkansas forest, but also the potential.
Yes. You know, the timber barons got here in Arkansas in the 1890s, and by 1920, most of the forest of Arkansas had been cut. There was even a cotton gin in each of the county seats, 75 counties in Arkansas in 1920. Well, we had to rebuild the forest, and part of the problem was the forests were burning. And so our forefathers, if you will, but our founders needed some way to suppress fire, and that's why the Forestry Commission was created.
You know, we talk about conservation, but really forests have to be harvested to remain healthy.
Well, today we have we're growing way more wood than we're harvesting, 40% more in both hardwood and pine. And if that continues for 2 or 3 more decades, we're going to have way too many trees per acre. That leads to southern pine beetle, that leads to emerald ash borer, that leads to red oak borer. It leads to wildfire danger, big time wildfire danger in drought situations. So without industry, without harvesting, without thinning, which emulates a natural process, we will not have healthy forests.
You know, more than half of Arkansas's landmass is covered by forests, and half of that is held by private landowners. Mm-hmm. How much of that land held by private landowners do they engage in forestry?
Oh, a little anecdotal, but way over half. Everybody practices forestry one way or another. If you choose to do nothing, that's a forest management practice, doing nothing. But most people we find through surveys want that wildlife habitat. And in order to get the wildlife habitat they want to hunt squirrels, deer, quail, turkeys, that sort of thing, you've got to do some thinning and probably some prescribed burning. And foresters from the Forestry Commission, consulting foresters can help those landowners reach their goals.
You mentioned what the Commission's commitment to protect and preserve. You mentioned rural and urban forests. What is an urban forest?
An urban forest. Well, everybody likes shade.
Right.
But urban forests, like the city of Fayetteville does a wonderful job. The canopy is surveyed, and trees are placed or repaired, if you will, pruned wisely to provide shade. But urban forests, trees in our cities, soak up water and take up carbon, produce oxygen, just like rural forests. And so they slow down the water, take the sediment out. They do all the things for the city that they do also rurally.
I want to talk about the WUI and the importance of people like me that have built homes in wooded areas. WUI is very important.
Yeah, wildland-urban interface, the WUI. We have a program called FireWise to teach. There's more than 850 rural fire departments. We teach those rural fire departments, those communities, how to protect their homes in the WUI. Keep the leaves and the pine straw off your roof. Clear the brush away from your house. Have a driveway that's wide enough to allow a big dozer truck to come down, or a fire truck to get up to help protect your house. But it's just some common sense things so that we can help landowners protect their house when wildfire comes.
Okay, Johnny, I want to turn over to you. Tell me a little bit about Greenbay Packaging and Pinecrest Lumber Division.
Greenbay started in Plummerville in 1973. We own, the company owns 250,000 acres of land. We also have another 100,000 acres in our landowner assistance program. All of the timber that comes into Pinecrest is SFI certified, and I'm sure Joe can tell you all about SFI certification, but you go through some strenuous testing to stay certified, and we're 100% certified with the timber that comes into our mill. We use about 270,000 tons of logs a year, which equates to 950,000 logs a year. I think, as Dave stated earlier, end to end, that would be almost 3,000 miles of logs per year that we use. One of the things I think that is unique about Pinecrest lumber is the average service years of the employees that we have now is 23 years. That means you've got a lot of old men and women down there like me. Not all of them are old like me, but you have some veterans there that know sawmilling.
Setting up a mill like that, that's a tremendous operation. How long does it take to set that up? Because you've got tons of equipment there.
Every day we're setting it up, I guess you could say. We repair every day what tears up during our sawmill, our planer mill shifts. We have some good people that work there. Great maintenance guys, great employees that they take pride in the mill, and we're proud of the people that we have there and the work that they do. But it's a 365-day-a-year job to keep a sawmill running.
What becomes of the byproducts of a lumber mill? You talk about bark and sawdust. That's all utilized.
Nothing's wasted in a sawmill. Of a log, 50% of that log turns into timber. 30% of it, 31% turns into chips. 10% turns into shavings. 10% turns into bark. Let me rephrase that. 5% turns into shavings, and 4% turns into sawdust. Now the bark, the chips, they're sent to Arkansas Craft, our sister company, our paper mill, for fuel. Some of the bark is used for mulch, and the shavings we use to fuel our dry kilns to dry our lumber.
So everything is used?
Everything is used. Nothing's wasted.
Gentlemen, we're out of time. Thank you so much for being here. It's been very interesting.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's all the time we have for today. You can find past episodes of Agri Arkansas online at aetn.org/agriarkansas. And if you have a story idea, we'd love to hear it. Drop us an email at agri@aetn.org. We'll see you again next time.
Major funding for this program provided by the Moving Image Trust Fund. Additional funding for this program provided by the Arkansas Agriculture Department.